When I returned from the Hershey swap meet, I was greeted by my loving wife, who said, and I quote, "You drove all the way to Hershey, Pennsylvania, you were gone for a whole week, and all you brought back was this rusty old junk?" Now, I attended the Hershey swap meet for my first time this fall. I had a very short list of things I was looking for, and I was pretty sure I could resist the urge to buy things that weren't on my list. The AACA Eastern Fall Meet in Hershey, Pennsylvania is touted as the largest antique car swap meet in the world, and I can believe it. It was enormous. I went there looking for a few odds and ends. I was hoping to find some old Champion X rebuildable spark plugs that I could use. I was hoping to find some old original forged spring shackles that were still in good condition. I needed some generator cutouts that I could rebuild. And I was looking for some of the old original tools, like the Stevens front axle tool, for example. My results were mixed. Now in this video I'm going to do things a little differently. I'm just out here in my shed, and I'm going to talk through some of the things that I found at Hershey with you. This is all unscripted, and I've got my computer out here with me, and I've got a bench cam set up so I can show you what I'm looking at, what I'm doing, and just talk to you about the items that I found. So let me show you my setup here today. I've got the items I bought on the bench. I've got my computer set up out here so I can show you what I'm looking at on there. And then I've got a bench cam and my main camera set up there. Now at Hershey I found a bunch of small items which are laid out here, and then some larger ones which we'll look at a bit later. I'll need to rearrange things to be able to show those to you. But just first I thought I'd show you some of these items that I found that are smaller. Just a quick overview as we begin here. I got some Champion X spark plugs, 5 of them. I got a valve seat dressing tool, an oldie. I've got a lapping tool, back and forth. Found that. Found 3 Ford script Model T cutouts, unknown condition. A Kingston carburetor, unknown condition. Some front forged shackles. Some of these are pretty good shape. You'll find they get worn pretty badly on the inside here. This one's not great, as you can see, but a lot of these are quite excellent, and I can clean up and use for sure. Found a New Day timer. No idea if this is reproduction or original, but it's very low miles on it, so I'm hoping it'll be useful to me. And a few new parts, just some headlight connectors and a couple of capacitors for rebuilding coils. And you'll see these boxes over here. The boxes are kind of neat. They're cheese boxes. I don't know if you can see that. So I like them. They're nicely made, and I can use them to store parts. So one of the things I was looking for were Champion X spark plugs. These are an antique spark plug that is rebuildable, and I think I was successful with what I found. Here's 5 that I managed to get at the Hershey swap meet. 4 are a pretty close match to one another. The only thing I can really see that's different about these is that some of them have the red writing and some of them have the orange writing. These are all saying made in USA, and they've all got a brass cap and a thread-on nut. Now, these are all used. I mean, this one's pretty good condition. The others have a lot more rust and pitting in them, but they're pretty good. The 5th one here is interesting. It seems to be exactly the same set, but it says made in Canada, which is cool. I'd love to have 4 of those, but right now I was only able to find the 1. These are rebuildable spark plugs. Now, I'm not an expert. I'm going to refer you to a website here. Let me show you. It's Dauntless Geezer. It's a website produced by Steve Jelf. He's a remarkably knowledgeable fellow who is generous and shares all his knowledge about Model Ts. He's got an excellent page here that explains the difference between all the different types of Champion X. And you can definitely see here on the left where you've got the very old ones that are completely rebuildable. They come apart, as shown here in the middle, completely. And then the type that are more like mine, which are from the 20s, that only partially come apart. I strongly recommend the Dauntless Geezer website. Lots of information, not just about spark plugs, but about everything Model T related. So I haven't had these apart yet, so let's take some of them apart and see what's inside. Well, that one wasn't too tight. That's good. So we've got the steel base. Oh, there's a brass washer for copper, probably crushable copper. Collar nut, and then the porcelain. It's pretty dirty and a little bit of carbon. Not too bad. So there's that one. Now this one. Oh, no, that one's really tight. This one's going to need a flame wrench. We're going to have to get it really hot and see if we can get it to crack loose. I don't want to break the porcelain. Okay, now I'm going to use a trick here to generate more views on YouTube. This is a trick that I learned from Kyle at Carter's Auto Restyling. The trick is that fire is the best way to generate views on YouTube. So we'll see how the flame wrench does here. We want to get this really hot. Okay, now that it's really hot, we'll see if we can get it to crack loose. There we go. Wow, we see from this one, now that it's cooled off a bit, that it's full of carbon. It's got a different style of copper washer. Really full of carbon. It's interesting, this collar nut doesn't seem to fit over the... Oh, it's just a really close fit. It's all that carbon giving it trouble. Somehow I got to get all that carbon cleaned out. If you have any idea the best way to clean carbon off of old spark plugs, I know I can sandblast the steel parts, but for all the porcelain parts, it sure doesn't go into a sandblaster. How do I get carbon off the porcelain parts? Yeah, that really doesn't want to come off of there. So we can already see some differences between these two. If you look at the bottom of the porcelain here, this one's much shorter with a longer anode or cathode, whatever that is, sticking out. And it appears that this brass cap is maybe a bit bigger. No, they're exactly the same. So the only reason this collar won't come off is all that carbon crap built up inside it. Well, here, I'll open up a few more. Let's see what we find. Now this Made in Canada plug looks a little different than the others. You'll see it's got quite a gap here. It's like the collar doesn't go down as far, so it'll be interesting to see what's going on in there. It's pretty dirty. Oh, the carbon's unreal. Really carboned up, but the copper washer looks suspicious. Oh wait, there's two. Oh no, wait. There's three. There's three copper washers in there, so that's why it stacks up so high. So someone got a little carried away with the copper washers. Any of the others like that? No, that's the only one that's got multiple washers in it. Otherwise, it looks pretty much the same. Just really dirty. It's also got the long anode or cathode, whatever that is, sticking out. So it's a lot more similar to that one, whereas the other three are more the same to one another. Anyway, that's cool. So I gotta find a way to get all the carbon cleaned up off of these, and then get them all back together. I guess it's okay that they have slightly different copper washers, and then gap them and see if they'll run in my car. That's for another video, another day. Let's look a little closer at some of the other things I found at Hershey. Alright, so now that we've talked about the spark plugs, I'm going to set those aside. And let's look at this. This is a real find. I was thrilled to find this at Hershey, this valve seat dresser. The reason I find this a real find is because this one has the curved seat cutting profile. Those of you who have watched my video on my valve job that I did last winter will find this fascinating, because I discovered while I was doing that video that the original Ford valve seats were radiused, not 45-degree tapers and not 3-angle cuts. And I haven't been able to find any information about those radiused seats other than that they were done that way. But this is the first tool I've found, or even seen photos of anywhere, that shows a seat redressing using the radiused shape for the valve seats. So I was just really keen to find that. It's got a number stamped on it here. It looks like maybe 3-7-617-3. What does the internet say about that? 3-7-617-3. Doesn't look good. Three dash 7-617-3. Seven dash 3. Nothing like that on here. So we don't know much about the provenance of this. If you have any ideas, or if you found anything in your research, let me know. All right. So, what else do we have here? We've got this New Day timer. So it comes with the spring-loaded brush. Although it does feel like the spring is maybe collapsed. Need to look into that. The doesn't look too worn. So it was kind of cool to find. And this Kingston carburetor. Yeah, I mostly rebuild NH Holley carburetors, but this one was pretty good condition. It's clearly from a Model T, and I thought it might be worth a go. It was only a few dollars, but no idea what it's like. So shall we take it apart and have a peek? The bowl is a bit rusty, but no rust through. Bowl has one big dent in it, but otherwise looks okay. I'll have to do a float test on that. This is really remarkably similar to the Holley NH. Needle valve. It's a brass one, a little bit worn. The needle float. Those seats, we'll have to see if we can get them out. It's got decent butterfly valves. They'll need to all come apart and get cleaned up. And let's see what the needle adjuster is like. Not bad. I don't know what this plug is all about. It looks a little homemade. I'll have to learn what that is. Oh, that's not going to come out easy. What about this one? Oh, so these are all going to take some attention. So I won't get into that here and now. But it looks like it's salvageable, rebuildable. The inlet's not cracked. So, looks promising. It was surprising. At Hershey, I didn't really see any Holley NH carburetors for sale. Everything was Kingston or some other brand. I guess those Holley NH being the most common and most desirable just aren't out there for sale too often. So if you see a good rebuildable one, you should pick it up. So I'd say there's hope for this carburetor. So in addition to these small items that I've just shown you that I picked up at Hershey, I've got a few larger items, and I'm going to show those to you one at a time, just because they're a little more awkward and they take a bit more effort to show. One thing I found, I was envious of Randall at Shed by the Tracks, who was gifted one of these. It's a gasoline torch. I was able to find one that was pretty good condition. Still pumps up to pressure. The valve still works. No rust out the bottom. So you fill these with gasoline and you can use them like a blowtorch. They make quite an intense, loud flame. So you can look forward to another fire video in the future when I fire this up.
You're on an E85 in there?
Clayton and Ambert Manufacturing Company, made in USA. So I found these 3 cutouts at Hershey. They're all Ford script original Model T cutouts. Of course, you never know what condition they are inside. They're welded shut, and you have to Dremel cut away those welds before you can open them up and find out what the interior condition is like. But there is a test I can do here on the bench just to see if there's much hope should I go ahead and open these up. So what I'm going to do is a bench test on these. If you want to see the full details of how to bench test and car test a Model T cutout, see my video on that subject. I'll put a link in the description. But here's just a quick test. So we want to check the cut-in voltage on these. So cutouts are supposed to close their points at about 6.5 volts and then open them again whenever you get below that level. So this is just a voltmeter with a little indicator light, so it's really easy to see when it turns on. And hope you can see that all right. Got it hooked up to my DC power supply. What I'm going to do is I'm going to ramp up the voltage that I'm feeding into this cutout from 5 volts up until it cuts in, and that means when the magnetic field inside the coil from the input voltage is sufficient to pull the points closed. So should be 6.5 volts. So here's 5 volts, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. I think I'll stop there. I don't want to create an arc inside. So that one is not closing. Let's check another. Okay, ramping up. We'll see how this one does. There's 5 volts, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Same behavior. This one's not cutting in either. Well, those two are the same. Now, this isn't the worst test result, because this means that the points are stuck open. So they're probably stuck just with corrosion and gunk in there that I can clean up when I rebuild them, and then these will probably be working properly. It'd be much worse to determine that they're stuck closed, because one failure mode for these is for the points to weld themselves shut, and that's pretty much irrecoverable. Or if it's recoverable, it's an awful lot of work and probably not worth it. One more to try. Last one. Any bets as to how this will turn out? All right. Start at 5 volts. There's 5, 6, 7, 8. Hey, it just came on at 8 volts, about 8 or 8.5. Bringing the voltage down, 7, 6, 5. Just under 6 volts. Let's check that again. So there's 5, 5.5, 6, 6.5, 7, 7.5. Just under 8 volts it cuts in. Coming down 7, 6.5 it cuts out. So this one's adjusted pretty close to where it belongs. So this one's definitely worth rebuilding and won't be difficult at all to bring to into good condition. You could even put this on a car right now and it would work. It just isn't adjusted perfectly. So those 3 cutouts seem to be a good find. I think one of them's definitely usable and the others are probably rebuildable. So that's excellent. Now I'm especially excited about these rusty old parts that I found. I found 5 of these. They're not all exactly the same. These are Snubbers. These are the technology that they had at the time of the Model T for shock absorption. These are not a compression damping device, but they are an extension damping device using friction. They were common on the expensive cars, the Pierce Arrows and the Cadillacs and such of the time, but they were an accessory only for Model T. Now I found a number of different ones at the show, all for a good price. Some are quite complete, I think. Don't know until I open them up. Some of them are, I'm quite sure, missing quite a few parts. But I wanted to get a bunch that I could experiment and try, see if I could rebuild a few of them and put them on my Model T and see how the handling improves or not with friction damping. So Gabriel is one of the most common manufacturers. I got these 2 much smaller ones that I'd be suspicious if these weren't a reproduction because they're in such perfect condition. I mean, there's no rust or anything. They're immaculate. I'm quite sure they're incomplete. I won't know till I take them apart. Got this one, which is rusted so badly I can't read the writing on it. It looks an awful lot like this one. Maybe a little narrower. This is the Gabriel I was showing you a minute ago. Notice that this one says balloon. This was a revised version that they released later in the 20s when the larger size, lower pressure balloon tires became more popular. So this is exactly right, probably for the back of my Model T. And these 2 I got are a pair. They look to be complete. They're pretty rusty. I don't know if we can read much on them until they get it cleaned up. Watson Stabilator, maybe? Yeah, we'll have to wait till I can get those cleaned up better to see what they're like. But they look to both be quite complete. I also found, with one of these sets of Snubbers, I found one of these clamps. And these clamps are meant to go on the front axle and allow you a point that you can mount these straps. But I only found one of these, and by some miracle, as I was walking through Hershey on this table with odds and ends that had nothing to do with Model Ts or Snubbers, I managed to find one more of these just lying there all by itself, and I managed to snag it for a few bucks. This is a real find. I don't know what I would have done if I had been able to find this. But hey, let's see what's inside one of these, shall we? Now, Snubbers work on the principle of dissipating energy through friction of this belt winding in on itself and tightening up. So the idea is when your suspension compresses, these just wind up freely, provide no damping at all. But then when your suspension extends back out, these cinch up on themselves and create friction drag, which is your damping motion for your suspension. Same thing that some modern shock absorbers do, but often modern shock absorbers have both compression and what they call rebound damping, what I've been calling extension damping. These are the rebound or extension damping only. Now, here goes. I'm hoping this doesn't go sprawling into a million pieces. There we go. So this one looks very complete. It's got a nail in it here. See that nail? Just keeping this tag, I think it had a tag on it. grease. So it's got a big compression spring in here. These two shoes. Then the winding of the strapping with these brass plates. Wow, that looks absolutely new and complete. I think that was a real find. Let's take a look at one of these that are in great condition and see what's all in there and what's missing. Hopefully the only thing missing is the strap, but I'm a little fearful that there's a lot more than that missing. Hey, this looks interesting. So we've got the spring in the shoes and what looks like the start of the strap has been cut off. So it looks like to get this working would only require new strap and new brass strip. Cool. I expect this one's the same. So these are called a special. I gotta look that up and see if I can figure out what that's all about. I'm expecting, since they're so narrow and small, that these were for a light front end like a Model T. There's still paint on this one. Same deal inside. It's got the spring in the shoes, but the strap cut off. Awesome. All right. Now, this one, which looks an awful lot like that first one I opened, but maybe a bit smaller. So this might be an original Gabriel pre-balloon, but I'm just guessing at that. Lots of rust here. Oh, but look at that. Look at that. It's got spring, shoes, and still got the brass plates and the remnants of some bug nests or something. Oh, you can read on the inside. Gabriel Snubbers. So this is the non-balloon. So I was right. This is a Gabriel. This is the predecessor to this one. So this was meant for high pressure tires, and this was meant for balloon tires. Cool. So those Gabriel Snubbers that I just showed you were not on my shopping list, but I was pretty excited to find them, and I'm glad I did. I think it's going to be really interesting to see how they change the handling of my old car. Another item I found that is not on my to buy list, that I was just an emotional purchase, but I found this beautiful new, the wood is newly made. It's on an original hub Model T steering wheel from the 2627. So this is the bigger wheel. Finding these in wood is not all that common. By the time 2627 Ts were built, they had that Ford-like plastic. It's really like a really hard rubber steering wheel that left black all over your hands. So the wood wheels were all aftermarket and accessory. This one was made by a craftsman in Ohio who I met at the show. Really, really skilled guy. White oak, beautiful, beautiful joinery. You can hardly even see the joints. So this is pretty neat. I just have to do some light sanding on it and oil and varnish, and then I'll be able to convert this to my removable steering wheel system. So I'll be able to use this on my car, have a beautiful wood wheel, and not get black all over my hands. Now the last thing I have to show you that I found at Hershey is this. This was not on my to-buy list either. This was an emotional decision in the moment, which one shouldn't do, but I really couldn't pass it up. Now I'm going to show it to you here for a moment. This isn't going to make much sense to you. This just looks like a headlight on a stick, but here, let me show it to you another way. Now this is a 27 Model T headlight bar. Early in 26, the headlights were bracketed to each fender only, and the two headlights and fenders were not braced to one another. My car's an early 26 and it has that arrangement. But I've always felt that it doesn't look quite as, I don't know, it doesn't look quite as neat as the 27 model that has the brace bar between the two fenders that holds the two headlights. So when I saw this for sale at a reasonable price and in good condition, although with a nice authentic old patina, I just had to pick it up. So I'm thinking when I rewire my headlights, which they need most desperately, I'll probably install this 27 headlight bar just to get that look, and hopefully it'll stop the fenders from rattling around quite as much as well. That's all the treasures that I found at Hershey. I hope you found it interesting. If you have any insight on anything that I've shown here, any information or details that might help me understand what I've found a little better, I'd appreciate it. Just leave a comment in the comments of the video below, or get a hold of me at fliverchannel@gmail.com. I really appreciate that you watch my videos. Thank you very much. This is Stephen for Fliver Channel signing off. Good night.